She was supposed to be the weakest in the line, until her reflexes made even the instructors speechless. The mockery came in waves, each one more cutting than the last. "There's the bandage brigade," they'd whisper as she passed, medical supplies clutched in hands that looked too small, too gentle for their world of controlled violence. "Hope she doesn't faint when the real training starts." The laughter that followed was harsh, designed to remind her that she was an outsider in their brotherhood of steel and blood. Before we dive into this incredible story, tell us in the comments which country you're watching from today. And if you believe that true strength often hides behind the most unexpected appearances, hit that subscribe button to support our channel. We're honored to share these remarkable stories with you. What they didn't know, what none of them could have imagined, was that those same gentle hands had once moved with lethal precision in places where mercy was a luxury no one could afford, and that the woman they dismissed as the weakest link in their chain was about to demonstrate reflexes that would make seasoned killers question everything they thought they knew about strength. The cruel jokes had begun the moment Lieutenant Commander Rachel Torres stepped off the transport at Naval Amphibious Base Coronado, her medical officer's uniform marking her as different from the warriors who called this place home. 3 weeks into her assignment supporting SEAL Team 5's advanced combat training, the derision had only intensified. They saw her struggle with the heavy medical equipment during field exercises, noticed how she seemed overwhelmed by the aggressive culture that defined naval special warfare, and concluded that she represented everything wrong with policies forcing elite units to accept personnel who clearly didn't belong in their lethal world. They only knew her as the replacement medical officer who'd arrived to support their training cycle. A soft-spoken Navy nurse who carried bandages instead of bullets, who spoke in careful, measured tones that seemed foreign in their environment of barked orders and crude humor, and who maintained the kind of professional distance that suggested she viewed her assignment as a bureaucratic obligation rather than an honor. Lieutenant Commander Torres moved through her duties with quiet efficiency, treating training injuries with gentle competence, while obviously struggling to understand the warrior mentality that drove men to push their bodies and minds beyond normal human limitations. To the members of SEAL Team 5 undergoing advanced close-quarters battle training, Lieutenant Commander Torres represented the kind of military medical personnel they'd encountered throughout their careers, technically competent at healthcare delivery, but fundamentally separate from the warrior culture that made special operations units effective. She provided professional medical support when required, maintained appropriate military courtesy during official interactions, and fulfilled her assigned responsibilities with competence that met all administrative requirements. But she also demonstrated obvious discomfort with weapons demonstrations, avoided participating in the informal bonding that built trust between team members, and seemed genuinely disturbed by the tactical discussions that excited warriors preparing for combat operations. Her reactions suggested someone who viewed violence as a medical problem to be treated rather than a tactical tool to be mastered. Senior Chief Petty Officer Marcus Rodriguez, who served as Team 5's senior enlisted leader and had 22 years of experience evaluating personnel assigned to support SEAL operations, found Lieutenant Commander Torres's behavior puzzling in ways that went beyond typical adjustment periods for new medical officers. "Most medical personnel adapt to our culture within a few weeks," Rodriguez had mentioned to his team leaders during their weekly assessment meeting. "They learn to appreciate tactical discussions, develop relationships with team members, and generally become part of the unit." Lieutenant Commander Torres maintains professional boundaries that suggest she doesn't want to integrate with the team. Chief Petty Officer Danny Williams, who served as Rodriguez's assistant and had extensive experience with various military medical personnel, offered perspective based on his observations during Lieutenant Commander Torres's first 3 weeks. "Senior Chief, some medical officers just focus on healthcare responsibilities without getting involved in tactical operations. Doesn't necessarily mean they can't perform when required." But Rodriguez's concerns went beyond cultural integration to fundamental questions about Lieutenant Commander Torres's ability to function effectively if their training exercises ever became actual emergencies requiring decisive action under pressure. Chief Williams, medical personnel assigned to SEAL teams need to understand our mindset and be comfortable with the realities of special operations. Lieutenant Commander Torres treats tactical training like a medical curiosity instead of preparation for saving American lives. The SEAL candidates participating in the advanced training had developed their own assessment of Lieutenant Commander Torres based on 3 weeks of observation and interaction. To them, she represented the kind of risk that came from military policies requiring elite units to accept personnel who lacked the aggressive mentality necessary for special operations success. Petty Officer Second Class Jake Patterson, a former Marine Corps infantry veteran whose combat experience and physical capabilities had made him a standout during SEAL training, had become the informal spokesman for the candidates' skepticism about their medical officer. Patterson's background in ground combat had prepared him for the physical and psychological demands of SEAL operations, but his traditional views about unit composition made him skeptical of integrating personnel who seemed fundamentally unsuited for warrior culture. Doc Torres probably does fine in military hospitals, Patterson had commented to his training partner during a break in their close-quarters battle exercises, but she doesn't understand what makes SEAL teams different from regular military units. Look at how uncomfortable she gets during weapons training, how she avoids tactical discussions, how she maintains distance like she's afraid of getting contaminated by our aggression. Seaman Tyler Brooks, whose previous Navy experience included assignments with various medical units, offered a different perspective based on his broader exposure to military healthcare personnel. Some medical officers just approach their assignments differently, Patterson. Doesn't mean they don't understand mission requirements or can't function when things get serious. But Patterson's assessment reflected the opinion of most candidates in the training program. Lieutenant Commander Torres's obvious discomfort with SEAL culture, her professional distance from team dynamics, and her apparent inability to appreciate the aggressive mindset required for special operations suggested that she was fundamentally unsuited for supporting elite military units. Brooks, this isn't about different approaches. It's about understanding what SEAL operations require, Patterson replied with the confidence that comes from combat experience and peer validation. Doc Torres treats us like we're medical cases instead of warriors preparing for missions where American lives depend on our effectiveness. She doesn't appreciate that special operations require personnel who can function as integrated team members, not protected medical assets. The situation that would completely transform everyone's understanding began during week 4 of the training cycle, when Senior Chief Rodriguez made a decision that would later be described as one of the most educational experiences in SEAL Team 5's training history. The advanced combat training schedule included comprehensive close-quarters battle exercises designed to prepare SEAL operators for urban combat situations where split-second decisions determine mission success and survival. The training was conducted in facilities that replicated the complexity of real-world environments, with multiple rooms, realistic lighting conditions, and scenarios that required tactical decision-making under extreme stress. Lieutenant Commander Torres was assigned to provide medical oversight for the training exercises, positioned at observation points where she could monitor the realistic combat scenarios while remaining available for immediate medical response if training accidents occurred. Her role was medical support rather than participation, but Senior Chief Rodriguez had noticed her obvious anxiety during previous close quarters battle sessions. Lieutenant Commander Torres seems genuinely disturbed by close-quarters battle training, Rodriguez had mentioned to Chief Williams before the day's exercises began. She acts like we're teaching operators to be criminals instead of preparing them for missions where these skills could save American lives. Doesn't understand that aggressive tactics are essential for success in urban combat environments. Chief Williams had observed Lieutenant Commander Torres's reactions during previous training sessions and shared Rodriguez's concerns about her apparent inability to appreciate the tactical necessities that drove SEAL combat training. Senior Chief, some medical personnel just aren't comfortable with the realities of special operations, even when they understand the mission requirements intellectually. Rodriguez decided to use the close-quarters battle training session to address what he viewed as Lieutenant Commander Torres's fundamental misunderstanding of SEAL operations while providing educational value for the candidates. Chief Williams, I want to demonstrate the difference between people who understand special operations requirements and those who view tactical training as unnecessary violence. Lieutenant Commander Torres's obvious discomfort with aggressive tactics makes her a perfect example of non-warrior mentality. The training facility had been configured to simulate a multi-room building where hostile forces might be holding American hostages or conducting operations that required immediate SEAL intervention. The scenarios included realistic lighting, multiple entry points, and decision-making challenges that tested operators' ability to distinguish between threats and non-combatants under stress. The candidates began their close-quarters battle exercises with systematic room-clearing procedures that emphasized speed, precision, and aggressive tactics designed to overwhelm hostile forces before they could respond effectively. The training was physically demanding and psychologically intense, requiring split-second decisions about when to use lethal force in complex situations. Senior Chief Rodriguez used the exercises to reinforce philosophical points about the warrior mindset that separated SEAL operators from conventional military personnel. Special operations require aggressive tactics and instant decision-making because hesitation gets Americans killed. The techniques you're practicing aren't excessive force. They're tools for accomplishing missions that protect American interests. Lieutenant Commander Torres observed from her medical station, maintaining the professional demeanor that had characterized her assignment while obviously struggling with discomfort about the realistic nature of the combat training. Her reactions seemed to confirm everything Rodriguez believed about her inability to understand the tactical necessities that drove special operations. As you can observe, Rodriguez announced to the candidates while gesturing toward Lieutenant Commander Torres, not everyone appreciates the aggressive tactics required for special operations success. Some people are uncomfortable with the reality that SEAL operators must be capable of using decisive force to protect American lives and accomplish critical missions. The candidates followed Rodriguez's indication toward Lieutenant Commander Torres, many of them sharing his assessment that their medical officer represented civilian attitudes that were incompatible with special operations requirements. Her obvious discomfort with close-quarters battle training seemed to validate their skepticism about her suitability for supporting SEAL operations. But Rodriguez wasn't finished with his demonstration of the contrast between warrior and civilian mindsets. He decided to create what he expected would be a clear illustration of why SEAL teams needed personnel who understood and embraced the aggressive tactics required for mission success. The demonstration was interrupted when the facility's emergency alarm system activated, not the routine signals used for training exercises, but the urgent, continuous tone that indicated genuine danger requiring immediate response from all personnel. Security alert, security alert. The facility's public address system announced in the controlled but urgent tone reserved for actual emergencies. Armed intruder in building complex Alpha. All training personnel implement lockdown procedures. Immediately. Armed subject is considered extremely dangerous. Remain in secure positions until security forces provide all clear. Senior Chief Rodriguez's 22 years of military experience activated automatically. All candidates implement immediate security protocols. Secure weapons and equipment, establish defensive positions, and maintain communication discipline until we receive situation updates. The candidates responded with the training that had been drilled into them throughout their military careers, seeking defensive positions around the training facility while preparing to protect themselves and others until security forces could neutralize the threat. But the intruder's location within the building complex was unknown, creating uncertainty about which areas were safe and which might expose personnel to danger. Lieutenant Commander Torres was positioned near the main corridor of the training facility when the security alert was announced, in an area that provided multiple approach routes for anyone moving through the building complex. Standard protocol required her to seek immediate cover and wait for security forces to resolve the situation. Instead, she did something that surprised everyone who witnessed it. Lieutenant Commander Torres moved toward the corridor intersection with deliberate purpose, positioning herself where she could observe multiple approach routes while maintaining access to communication systems. Her movements weren't panicked or confused. They were systematic and confident, suggesting she had considered the tactical situation and developed a plan for responding to threats. Lieutenant Commander Torres, Patterson called out from his defensive position. Protocol is to remain in secure positions until security forces clear the area. But Lieutenant Commander Torres's response revealed situational awareness that seemed completely inconsistent with her gentle medical demeanor. The protocol assumes that medical personnel are non-combatants who require protection. She replied without moving from her observation position. That assumption may not be accurate in all situations. Before anyone could process the implications of her statement, the armed intruder appeared in the main corridor, approximately 30 feet from Lieutenant Commander Torres's position. He was clearly agitated, carrying what appeared to be a military-style pistol, and moving erratically in ways that suggested either mental health crisis or substance impairment affecting his judgment and coordination. The intruder's weapon was raised in a threatening position, and his behavior indicated he was prepared to use lethal force against anyone he encountered. His presence in the training facility posed an immediate threat to all personnel, but his proximity to Lieutenant Commander Torres made her the most likely target for violence. What happened next occurred so quickly that most observers required several seconds to understand what they had witnessed. Lieutenant Commander Torres moved toward the armed intruder with speed and precision that transformed her from vulnerable medical officer into something far more dangerous. Her approach wasn't the hesitant advance of someone unfamiliar with violence. It was the controlled movement of someone who understood exactly how to neutralize armed threats efficiently. Her disarmament technique was executed with flawless precision, a combination of leverage, timing, and tactical knowledge that used the intruder's weapon position and mental state against him in ways that rendered his firearm useless within seconds. The disarming sequence included striking techniques that disabled his ability to maintain weapon control, followed by submission procedures that prevented him from recovering or accessing additional weapons. Within 5 seconds, the armed intruder was on the ground, completely controlled by restraint techniques that prevented further resistance while ensuring he received appropriate medical evaluation for whatever condition had caused his dangerous behavior. Lieutenant Commander Torres secured the intruder's weapon, conducted a rapid assessment to identify additional threats or weapons, and immediately began providing medical evaluation to determine if he required emergency health care for medical or psychiatric conditions that might have contributed to his actions. Threat neutralized, she reported calmly through the facility's communication system. One subject. Secured, weapon recovered, no personnel injuries. Subject appears to require medical evaluation for possible psychiatric emergency. Request security response for custody transfer and medical transport. The entire sequence had taken less than 10 seconds. An armed threat that could have resulted in multiple casualties had been eliminated by tactical skills that exceeded the capabilities of most military personnel, demonstrated by someone they had been dismissing as unsuitable for supporting special operations. The training facility was completely silent. 12 SEAL candidates, multiple instructors, and support personnel stood frozen, staring at their medical officer who had just neutralized an armed threat with techniques that challenged everything they believed about her background and capabilities. Senior Chief Rodriguez was the first to speak, and his voice carried the kind of recognition that comes from witnessing exceptional tactical performance. Outstanding response, Lieutenant Commander Torres. That was threat neutralization at the highest professional level. Patterson approached Lieutenant Commander Torres with obvious respect and growing curiosity about her background. Ma'am, where did you learn disarmament techniques that could neutralize an armed subject that quickly? Lieutenant Commander Torres was conducting a medical assessment of the secured intruder while responding with the same professional tone she used for routine medical discussions. Previous assignments required medical personnel to operate in environments where conventional security wasn't always available. Sometimes medical officers need to be capable of protecting their patients and themselves from various threats. Brooks asked the question that everyone was thinking. Lieutenant Commander, what kind of medical assignments required tactical training at that level? Lieutenant Commander Torres's answer provided insight into military specialties that most SEAL personnel never encounter. Medical officers assigned to certain special operations units sometimes need to function independently in hostile environments where healthcare and security responsibilities intersect. Rodriguez, whose entire assessment of Lieutenant Commander Torres had been transformed by witnessing her capabilities, approached with obvious respect and professional interest. Lieutenant Commander Torres, I need to understand your background so we can properly integrate your capabilities into our operations. What previous assignments developed the tactical skills you just demonstrated? Lieutenant Commander Torres's response revealed military experience that exceeded Rodriguez's expectations. Senior Chief Rodriguez, I served as a medical officer with units conducting operations where medical personnel were required to function as integrated team members rather than protected support assets. The conversation was interrupted when Master Chief Petty Officer James Sullivan, the facility's senior enlisted advisor responsible for all training operations, arrived to assess the security incident and coordinate appropriate response procedures. Senior Chief Rodriguez, Master Chief Sullivan announced as he approached the group, I'm receiving reports about medical personnel neutralizing armed threats using advanced tactical techniques. I need to understand exactly what occurred here. Rodriguez's response reflected his completely changed understanding of Lieutenant Commander Torres's background and capabilities. Master Chief Sullivan, Lieutenant Commander Torres just demonstrated tactical skills that exceed those of most special operations personnel I've worked with. Her threat neutralization was textbook perfect, and her response time was faster than most trained security professionals could achieve. Master Chief Sullivan approached Lieutenant Commander Torres with professional interest in understanding how her capabilities might enhance their training programs and operational effectiveness. Lieutenant Commander Torres, Senior Chief Rodriguez, is describing tactical performance that suggests specialized military training. Can you provide context about your previous assignments and qualifications? Lieutenant Commander Torres's answer revealed the extent of her specialized background. Master Chief Sullivan, I served as a special operations medical officer with units that required medical personnel to be capable of independent operation in denied territory. The tactical training was necessary because medical officers sometimes needed to protect patients and accomplish medical missions without conventional security support. Over the following weeks, Lieutenant Commander Torres's background was gradually revealed through official channels and her willingness to discuss operational experience that had previously been classified at levels preventing detailed discussion. She had served with Army Special Forces medical detachments conducting operations in denied territory where medical personnel were required to function as fully integrated team members capable of fulfilling any mission role necessary for success. Her assignments had included operations where medical officers served as snipers, reconnaissance specialists, and tactical leaders, depending on operational requirements. Her tactical training had been conducted at the same schools that prepared special operations combat personnel, including advanced weapons training, close quarters battle techniques, and operational planning that prepared medical officers to assume command responsibilities when circumstances required. The operations I supported, Lieutenant Commander Torres explained to Rodriguez and Master Chief Sullivan during comprehensive briefings about her background, required medical personnel who could function in any capacity necessary for mission success. Sometimes that meant providing medical care, sometimes it meant serving as a sniper or demolition specialist, and sometimes it meant protecting the team through close quarters combat or threat neutralization. Her specialized training had included instruction at multiple advanced military schools, weapons proficiency with systems ranging from precision rifles to explosive devices, and tactical leadership preparation that enabled medical officers to command special operations teams when operational necessity required. The training programs at the facility were significantly enhanced by integrating Lieutenant Commander Torres's specialized knowledge and tactical expertise. Her close quarters battle capabilities provided instruction that exceeded what was available through standard SEAL training resources, and her medical knowledge enhanced the realism of tactical scenarios. Patterson, whose initial skepticism about Lieutenant Commander Torres had been completely eliminated by witnessing her tactical capabilities, became one of her most dedicated students and strongest advocates. Lieutenant Commander Torres demonstrated that true warriors come in many forms, and that the people we underestimate based on their current assignment might possess the most advanced tactical skills we'll ever encounter. Brooks, whose respect for medical personnel had been confirmed in ways that exceeded his expectations, found his understanding of special operations medicine completely transformed. Lieutenant Commander Torres proved that in elite units, medical personnel aren't just healthcare providers. They're full team members whose tactical capabilities can determine mission success. Rodriguez, whose assessment of Lieutenant Commander Torres had undergone complete reversal, became one of her strongest supporters for expanded training responsibilities and operational integration. Lieutenant Commander Torres showed us that exceptional tactical capability often hides behind professional roles that don't reveal the full extent of someone's specialized training and operational experience. The tactical training programs that Lieutenant Commander Torres developed were eventually adopted throughout Naval Special Warfare Commands, establishing new standards for close-quarters battle instruction and threat neutralization procedures. Her methods enhanced the effectiveness of SEAL training by demonstrating tactical principles that emphasized speed, precision, and decision-making over physical strength, providing operators with techniques they had never encountered through conventional training programs. But perhaps Lieutenant Commander Torres's most important contribution was proving that assumptions based on current assignment and apparent comfort levels could be spectacularly incorrect, and that true tactical expertise often chooses professional modesty over dramatic demonstration. The story of the medical officer who neutralized an armed intruder faster than trained security personnel became legendary throughout naval special warfare, shared with new SEAL candidates as an example of how exceptional capability often hides behind gentle professional demeanor. The most important lesson from Lieutenant Commander Torres's demonstration, instructors would tell new candidates, is that true tactical experts are often defined by their competence rather than their attitude toward violence, and that the people who seem most uncomfortable with aggression might possess the most advanced combat skills. Years later, when Lieutenant Commander Torres was promoted to senior leadership positions in Special Operations Medical Command, her legacy lived on in tactical training programs that integrated medical and combat capabilities and in policies that prevented discrimination based on assumptions about personnel suitability for specialized assignments. Her story reminded everyone in special operations that medical personnel must be prepared for integrated tactical responsibilities that exceed traditional healthcare roles, and that the most effective special operations medical officers are often those whose tactical training rivals that of combat specialists. The moment when Lieutenant Commander Torres had disarmed the armed intruder had lasted only seconds, but its impact continued for years, reminding everyone that exceptional tactical capability often chooses discretion over display, and that the most dangerous assumptions are those we make about people based on their professional demeanor rather than their actual background and specialized training. Lieutenant Commander Torres's demonstration had proven that true professional excellence transcends job descriptions and current assignments, and that the highest form of tactical capability is often the kind that remains hidden until circumstances require its immediate application for protecting others. The security incident that could have resulted in multiple casualties had instead revealed tactical expertise that enhanced the training and operational capabilities of an entire SEAL team, proving that sometimes the most valuable discoveries come from witnessing people demonstrate skills that completely contradict our assumptions about their background and capabilities. Before we leave you today, here's our question. Have you ever witnessed someone reveal capabilities that completely contradicted your assumptions about their background or training? Have you seen situations where people's professional roles concealed skills that no one expected them to possess? Tell us in the comments about the moments when you realized that exceptional capability often chooses humility over display. And if you believe that true expertise is defined by competence rather than appearance, and that the most skilled people are often those who prefer action over explanation, hit that subscribe button to support our channel. Every story reminds us that exceptional capabilities often hide behind modest professional roles, and that the people we underestimate based on their current assignments might possess the most advanced skills we'll ever encounter. We'll see you in the next story where we'll discover another incredible tale of hidden expertise and the power of proving your worth through decisive action when it matters most.